Part 101. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 1002. For a moment, Zhang Xi almost thought he was hallucinating. During this period of time, she knocked on one door after another, asking the same question repeatedly, and got countless don't-know answers. Frankly speaking, she has become numb to asking. Who can remember the joke at a party 3 or 4 years ago? But now a man told her that it was Zhuang Jie who said it. Zhang Xi subconsciously glanced at the roster file in his hand. Ding Haowei, 21 years old, debuted as a model, and recently transformed into a fashion stylist. The reason why he and Zhuang Jie have an intersection is because he participated in a fashion show of Shenzhen Ruo, and there will be parties and dinners after each show. Are you sure? Zhang Xi looked him in the eyes. Oh, if I'm sure, I'm not so sure, the man shrugged and said, after all, it was a long time ago. I heard you say Philip just now, and I seem to have heard Zhuang Jie mention this person. Could you please recall carefully? Zhang Xi said, it's about a murder case, it's very important. The other party was very embarrassed, it was too long ago, and I can't remember it for a while now. Zhang Xi thought for a while and said, thank you, Mr. Ding, we may find you in the follow-up investigation. If you can think of anything during this period, please feel free to contact us. Okay. Leaving the apartment, Zhang Xi got into the police car, looking thoughtful. The subordinate next to her asked her, shall we go to the next one now, or go directly to the police station? Zhang Xi regained her senses and said, go to the next one, there are not many left, and let's see if anyone can confirm what Ding Haowei said. She looked down at the roster in her hand and murmured, I hope not. Then they asked several people who had attended the party one after another, made telephone inquiries from other places, and visited local people, but they still found nothing. No one remembers about Filet. On Saturday, Zhang Xi went to Musei with the search results. There is no favorable evidence, but there is a witness for the prosecution. Zhang Xi sighed annoyedly, and threw Ding Haowei's information in front of Musei. This person said that he heard Zhuang Jie mention Fei Li at the party. Do you think it's his name? I don't know, but I hope it's him. Musei picked up Ding Haowei's information and asked, can this person fish? Zhang Xi shook her head, I didn't ask at the time. If he was the murderer, 2 detailed questions would arouse his vigilance. Maybe he will provide us with more information in the future in order to plant Zhuang Jie as soon as possible. After a pause, he added, I asked him about the details of the story, but he didn't remember. He only remembered that Zhuang Jie mentioned the name Fei Li, but he promised me that he would tell me as soon as he remembered something. Musei carefully looked at the photos on the roster, and said thoughtfully, of course he doesn't remember. If the version of the story he told is different from Zhuang Jie, wouldn't it be revealing? Zhang Xi frowned, but I don't understand, why didn't he simply deny it all? You can say that you have never heard the story like everyone else, wouldn't it be safer? Now it is more suspicious. He has to do this. Musei smiled and looked at Zhang Xi, because he doesn't know how many people you asked, and he doesn't know if any of those people you asked remember that story. Since Zhuang Jie remember, Bao Buqi and others will remember, he dare not bet. Zhang Xi came to a sudden, so he has to admit that he remembers. If he doesn't admit it, if someone testifies against him in the future, he won't be able to argue with it. But if he admits it, the testimony will contradict each other, which will form a reasonable suspicion. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 1003. In court, there is a principle, when there are reasonable doubts about the facts, a judgment or ruling in favor of the defendant should be made. For example, when the facts are in doubt between guilt and innocence, it should be treated as innocent. When the facts are in doubt between felony and misdemeanor, it should be deemed a misdemeanor. Muzi said, go and find out if this guy has ever bought a speedboat or a small boat, whether he has a collection of fishing tackle or fishing photography at home, and also check at the fishing club to see if there are any records about him. Zhang Xi nodded, and said, but we can't sue him for murder just because he knows how to fish. Without evidence, the judge will think that the prosecution has failed in its duty of proof. I'm not the prosecution. Muse's eyebrows were crooked, and when she smiled, she showed her white and neat teeth, a little childish. I'm the defense now. As long as the jury is convinced that the murderer is someone else, I will complete the task. Hey, Zhang Xi's eyes widened, making a gesture to pinch her, can you be more reliable? Muzi hurriedly avoided with a smile, all right, let Yu Yang arrange for this guy to testify in court as a witness for the prosecution, and I will deal with him. Zhang Xi just gave up. He glanced at the scattered documents and photos on Muzi's desk, and took out one. Who is this person? Zhang Xi asked. Zhuang Jia's ex-boyfriend. Muzi came back with a smile, and looked at the photos with Zhang Xi next to her, and Chen called him specially and asked him to come back from abroad to testify for Zhuang Jia. How is he handsome? Well, it's okay, but I feel a little old. Zhang Xi put the photo back. Muzi teased her, you're so handsome, so you can just say one thing? Are you still thinking about your first love? Zhang Xi's face suddenly turned cold, and he rubbed his arms and said, don't mention this. Shadow. Zhang Xi had a crush on her neighbor's brother when she was a student, but in the end she witnessed the neighbor's brother confessing to another boy with chocolate in his hand. She was hit so hard that she still can't trust men. Single so far. The above is just a joke. Psychological shadow is part of the reason, but the real reason for being single is that Zhang Xi didn't meet the right person. How is Yu Yang? Muzi asked. Zhang Xi raised her eyebrows vigilantly and looked at her. You don't want to make me and him together, right? Is there any mistake? He is 1 year younger than me. Muzi laughed and cried, I'm asking Yu Yang how the investigation is going now. Zhang Xi rolled her eyes and breathed a sigh of relief, and replied, he's gone to Langzi town again, the hometown of Ma Kai's and Ma Kaiming. Yu Yang was delayed for a whole day in Langzi town. He wanted to get some valuable information from the relatives and friends of Kaiser Ma and Kaiming Ma, but the two brothers left the village early and went to the big cities, so they were estranged from their friends in their hometown. As for relatives, Yu Yang's visit is very unwelcome. Originally, their son was just missing, but now the prosecutor brought the news of his death. Not only that, the prosecutor has to repeatedly ask the deceased about his life, which is a kind of mental torture for the elderly. Yu Yang returned without success. It was already evening when I came back, and the afterglow of the setting sun slanted into the office, and through the shutters, it cast shadows interlaced with light and dark on the floor. The room is dark. Yu Yang didn't turn on the light, went to the desk and sat down, meditating quietly, depressed. The trial was about to begin, but he still hadn't found conclusive evidence. He is a little scared. Just like what Zhuang Jia said, he was afraid of sending an innocent person to prison, and then he would suffer from his conscience. Even a thought would arise in the bottom of my heart, maybe she did kill someone. Even if this thought dissipated immediately as soon as it appeared, Yu Yang was still ashamed of having such a thought. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life. Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 1004. In all fairness, he is not familiar with Zhuang Jia. It was only because of Muzi that he knew Zhuang Jia. His impression of Zhuang Jia was only that of a wealthy young lady with a cheerful and lively personality, that's all. Because of this case, there will inevitably be more intersections and more understanding. Yu Yang knows that Zhuangjia has a dog named Maxu, that she likes cool boys, that she is very talented in design, has won awards of all sizes, and is particularly fond of jewelry design. There is a place in the design firm. Without this case, Zhuangjia's life would have gone smoothly. Yu Yang leaned back and closed his eyes. If Zhuangjia goes to jail, her fresh life will be ruined in his hands. Someone knocked on the door suddenly, interrupting Yu Yang's meditation. Yu Yang opened his eyes. Please come in. A young man opened the door and came in, as if he had encountered something good. He was in good spirits. I came here to try my luck, but I didn't expect you to be here. Why do you come to work overtime on Saturday? Just sit down and leave, Yu Yang said. Why are you here? I found this. The other party handed him the information in his hand, with excitement in his eyes. I didn't expect that she had sleepwalking before. This can explain why she knew the details of the crime clearly, but he doesn't remember that he killed someone. Yu Yang frowned, looking at the information in his hand. It was Zhuangjia's diagnosis report. His colleagues chattered endlessly. In 1981, in Arizona, a man named Steven stabbed his wife 26 times while sleepwalking. In 1987, Kenneth sleepwalked in Toronto, Canada, and killed his mother-in-law by driving 23 kilometers. And in 1997, an engineer named Scott stabbed his wife 44 times while sleepwalking and drowned her in a swimming pool. I found the doctor who treated her then. Now she has nothing to say. It's useless even if you don't admit it. The facts are in front of you. It doesn't matter which lawyer you hire. After finishing speaking, he looked smug. This person is called Qin Lei. After Yu Yang applied for recusal, the chief prosecutor handed over Zhuangjia's case to Qin Lei for investigation. The case of catfish mutilation has been suspended for 3 years. It is considered a major case. Once it is completed, it will be shown in the TV media. It is a very rare opportunity for any prosecutor. In the past, Yu Yang was always in the limelight, but Qin Lei didn't expect that he would have such good luck. He was very excited and vowed to take this case down. After reading it, Yu Yang returned the materials to him, patted his shoulder, and said lightly, "Do it well." Must. Qin Lei was in high spirits. Yu Yang didn't say anything more, picked up his briefcase and left the office. Qin Lei looked at Yu Yang's back, stroked his chin, and thought, Yu Yang seems a bit frustrated today. Then I thought again, could it be that you are jealous of me? Hey. This man is really stingy. He has been on TV so many times. What's wrong with letting me do it one time? Qin Lei laughed for a while, and happily left work with the information in hand. On Sunday, Yu Yang, Zhang Ci, and Mu Ziyi met again. Mu Ziyi had class on Monday, so she booked a plane ticket back to Jingling on Sunday night. Before leaving, she went over the case with Zhang Ci and Yu Yang. Yu Yang did not disclose the medical report held by the prosecution. He could help Zhuangjia as a friend after quitting the case, but he could not take advantage of his power to disclose internal information to the defense lawyer, which would be a serious dereliction of duty. Fortunately, Zhang Ci found a suspect named Ding Haowei, and the case finally had a breakthrough. When Mu Ziyi and Zhang Ci were chatting about the case, they chattered endlessly like a middle school girl, while Yu Yang sat aside like a cold-hearted bully in his class, sitting silently. Seeing him in a daze, Mu Ziyi waved her hand in front of Yang's eyes. If you solve the case this time, how are you going to thank Zhuangjia? Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 1005. Yu Yang was stunned for a moment, then came back to his senses. Xie Zhuangjia. That's right, Zhang Ci also echoed. If Zhuangjia didn't bring this up, you'd have a hard time trying to solve this case. There is also the case of the black rose, Mu Ziyi said. Although it is a fake rose, it has also contributed to the detection rate of Xinjiang City. I should thank you. Jiang Si said, please eat. Yu Yang has a high salary and is alone. Why do you need so much money? Treat me. The two of you talked to each other, but Yu Yang couldn't get in the way. No matter how much money I have, I don't have as much money as Mu Zi, right? Yu Yang said, it's not enough for her husband to play poker. Mu Zi spread her hands, but I didn't put Zhuangjia in prison. Jiang Si also quickly put aside the relationship, me neither. Yu Yang was silent for a while, and gave up struggling, okay, I'll treat you. In a blink of an eye, Monday arrived, and the trial date of the catfish dismemberment case was finally set, and the trial will officially start this Friday. At the same time, related news also exploded to occupy the headlines of all news websites overnight. At such a time, Musa couldn't help but feel relieved that Zhuangjiaran was in prison, otherwise Zhuangjia would probably become mad with anger when she saw the news media portraying her as a perverted murderous female devil. The lethality of language is immeasurable. Mu Zi called Shenzhenru early and told her not to go out in the near future, and the company's affairs were temporarily moved to her home, and she tried not to read those news to avoid unnecessary negative emotions. Fighting a lawsuit is like fighting a war. The morale of the army must be stable, and it must not be confused, and then it can move forward with peace of mind. Mu Zi was sitting in the classroom, watching the news for a while. When she heard the bell ringing, she immediately put away her phone and stopped watching it. She didn't want to be picked on by that Liao Likan anymore. Zainan ran into the classroom before the ringing stopped, and seeing that there was still an empty seat beside Mu Zi, he hurried over and sat down. Morning, he panted and smiled at Mu Zi, his chubby cheeks were sweating from the exercise. Mu Zi also greeted with a smile, morning. Zainan seemed to have something to say, but he hesitated to speak. Seeing Liao Likan walking in from outside the classroom, he retracted his neck and remained silent. As soon as Liao Likan came in, the whole classroom fell silent. Instead of lecturing immediately, she stood by the podium for a while. Just when everyone couldn't help discussing in a low voice, Liao Likan suddenly spoke. Last week in class, Situ Musa violated the school rules by playing with his mobile phone in class. I confiscated the mobile phone and threw it out of the window. This caused a certain amount of property damage to Situ Musa. For this, I am deeply sorry, and also for myself. I apologize to Situ Musa for my inappropriate behavior, sorry. After finishing speaking, she bowed slightly towards the direction where Mu Zi was sitting. The whole class was in an uproar. Immediately afterwards, everyone was discussing. Surprised and curious eyes fell on Mu Zi from time to time. Mu Zi looked at his textbook calmly. In fact, I was also a little surprised. Last time in the dean's office, Liao Likan had a tough attitude. Mu Zi thought that the other party would not let go until the litigation stage, but unexpectedly, it turned out that Liao Likan also knew how to be subdued. Could it be that the dean persuaded her? Thinking about it, Liao Likan would not bet on her teaching career anyway, it would be too uneconomical. Okay, class starts now. After apologizing, Liao Likan opened the lesson plan with a blank face, ignored the whispers in the classroom, and began to lecture. A class ended peacefully. Liao Likan neither showed resignation, nor made any more sarcastic remarks. She just gave a cold lecture and then left the classroom. Mu Zi watched her go out, a little suspicious. At this time, Zainan beside him said hesitantly, well, I have something, I want to ask you for help, I don't know, it's inconvenient. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Hua Liao. Chapter 1006. Mu Zi looked at Zainan, what's the matter? Zainan seemed very embarrassed, his face turned red, his skin was fair, and it was especially obvious when he blushed. Muzi I smiled, and asked again, "Tell me, what's the matter?" "I read that news." Zainan stumbled and said, "The trial will start this week, can you, let me be your deputy?" Muzi I was stunned. She entrusted this matter to Mingjun law firm. Although she was the one to defend, the identity of the lawyer was kept secret for the time being. The reporter probably wouldn't know until the day of the trial. How did Zainan know? Zainan introduced himself with a blushing face and was sweating nervously. If you don't mind, I can help you, although I lack experience in criminal defense, I will try my best to do a good job in other aspects, help you relieve stress." Zainan. Muzi I looked at him in embarrassment. "I'm sorry, this case is a bit special, I can't promise you." Zainan was startled when he heard this, and then smiled awkwardly. "I'm sorry, I know I'm being abrupt." Muzi I explained, "I'm sorry, I'm glad you are willing to help me, but in this case, the defendant is my friend, and her privacy and interests are involved, so." "Ha ha ha, I understand. It's okay." Zainan scratched the back of his head with a smile. "I saw the news this morning and thought it was a good opportunity to gain experience. I have always been envious of others' demeanor when they appeared in court. I haven't been in court yet." He gave Muzi I an embarrassed look, and then said, "I'm not afraid of your jokes, I take time out every week to go to the court, attend some public hearing cases, and imagine that I will be able to appear in court one day." "Zainan, there will be a day." Muzi I smiled and patted him on the shoulder lightly. "You have even passed the most difficult judicial examination, and it will be a matter of time before you appear in court. Don't worry." Zainan smiled, but the smile was slightly regretful. The catfish dismemberment case is a major case. If you lose, you will not be ashamed. If you win, you will become famous. As long as Muzi I brings Zainan with you, he will show some face. After graduation, if Zainan goes to work in a law firm, the cases he has handled will add luster to his resume. Muzi I also understands these superficial principles. It's just that she really can't agree. What kind of lawyer to hire is the client's right. Muzi I cannot allow Zainan to participate without Zhuangjia's knowledge, and Zainan really can't help in this case. After the morning class, Muzi I went home in the car, flicking the screen of her mobile phone in boredom, looking at current events and news. She clearly requested that her identity be kept secret, but some news reports keenly guessed that the defense lawyer was her. In fact, it is not difficult to understand, but any case that Mingjun law firm takes over will remind people of Muzi I. The so-called secrecy is more like there is no silver 300 taels here. No wonder Zainan knew about it. Muzi I sighed silently in her heart. When I was about to get home, I received a call from Zhang Ci, saying that Ding Haowei had agreed to testify in court. This guy is really cunning. He didn't agree to appear in court until the news came out, Zhang Ci said in disgust. I think he deliberately wanted to see what evidence the police had, so he could prepare for it. What about the fishing club, did you find anything? Muzi I asked. Zhang Ci said, Ding Haowei did join a fishing club a few years ago and bought fishing tackle, but he didn't find any boats, maybe they were leased. After finishing speaking, he sighed and said irritably, with these alone, there is no way to convict him. In this trial, their purpose is not only to clear Zhuangjia of the charges, but also to bring the real culprit to justice. Muzi I tilted his head, looked at the street scene outside the car window, and said in a calm tone, there is still time, and Ding Haowei's motive for killing will be clearly investigated. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 1007. The time is approaching day by day, and the news is getting hotter and hotter. Almost all the students in the training institute are paying attention to this case, because everyone knows that SecondChance will defend the defendant. It would be unbelievable if this kind of thing happened to other students. A trainee who has not yet graduated, just passed the judicial examination, and started to act as a criminal lawyer for such a significant case. But on SecondChance, it seemed to be a matter of course, and no one even questioned her defense ability. This is like a college student who has not yet graduated. When her classmates are racking their brains to find an internship, she should be hired as a department director. Walking on campus, Muse began to meet and strike up a conversation, sometimes with classmates, sometimes with seniors. They usually start with a hello, then chat about the case and ask if she's ready. Is the prosecution chain of evidence complete? Are there hopes for an acquittal? Someone also made a request similar to that of Zainan, hoping to take this opportunity to accumulate experience, and also wanted to learn some practical skills in court trials. Muse declined all of them. This case is related to Zhuangjia's future, so it is not suitable to be used as a training plan for trainees. Friday comes in the blink of an eye. On this day, the gate of the court was almost impenetrable, crowded with vehicles of major news media, and inside were crazy reporters. The case is open to the public, and the number of auditorium seats is limited. The reporters who failed to grab a seat can only squat on the periphery, waiting for Muse to show up, and rush forward like a wasp crossing the border. Miss Sidhu, what are your reasons for defending this case? Do you firmly believe that the defendant is innocent? What are your plans for your future career plan? Are you planning to work in the legal profession? Do you think there will be an acquittal in this case? Faced with such a case, how do you overcome your psychological tension? Under the escort of the bodyguards, Muse passed without any hindrance, just as if those questions were all on deaf ears. When he heard one of the questions, he couldn't help but stagnate. He turned his head and looked over in doubt. Nervous? Why are you nervous? As soon as the reporters saw Muse stop, the camera lens immediately focused on her and flashed non-stop. Miss Sidhu, if you lose this case, your friend will be sentenced to at least life imprisonment. Are you not worried at all? Of course I'm worried, but there's no need to be nervous. This is just a very common case, a very common murder case in criminal cases. I think everyone's reaction is too extreme. Muse stared at the camera with a calm voice. This matter, there is actually only one reason why the case has caused such a sensational response. All cameras were focused on Muse, waiting for her to reveal the answer. Muse said, because of catfish. Reporters. Seeing them looking at each other, Muse shrugged and walked straight into the courtroom. She is telling the truth. The huge catfish engenders psychological fear and speeds up the spread of news. If the catfish factor is excluded, this is just a corpse case. The horror is horror, but it is no longer so eye-catching. The courtroom was basically full. Chu Mingjun, who had just finished his honeymoon, served as Muse's assistant, and was sorting out the case materials. Zhuangjia's mother, Zhang Xi, and Zhang Xinyuan all came to attend the trial, but they didn't see Yu Yang. Where's Yu Yang? Muse asked. I went to Langzi town again yesterday. I don't know if I'm back now. Zhang Xi lowered her head and looked at her phone. There were no unread messages, so she sent a message to Yu Yang. On the other side, the jury entered one after another. When the judge came in, the audience fell silent, with a solemn atmosphere. Zhuangjia looked nervously at Muse. Muse smiled slightly at her. Nothing will happen. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 1008. The trial officially began, and as usual, the prosecution should first ask questions, and the prosecution did not move for a long time. The judge frowned slightly and reminded, Prosecutor. Oh, oh, Lei came back to his senses and stood up quickly. He had always been lucky, but on the day of the trial, he did not expect that he would actually fight Mu Zi. If this wins, will it offend the president? Lei felt a little nervous. When he was nervous, his brain cells became more active. He couldn't help wondering if Yu Yang avoided the case because he didn't want to offend the president's daughter. This sanctimonious guy. Your Honor, I want to ask the defendant first. Lei straightened his clothes and said. This is intended to cut straight to the point. Miss Zhuangjie, please answer my question as briefly and accurately as possible, is that okay? Zhuangjie pursed her lips nervously, and replied, yes. You once made up a story? The content of the story was that you fell in love with a male model named Fei Li, and then you killed him brutally because of being threatened by Fei Li, and then you killed Fei Li's brother. Am I right? Zhuangjie nodded, yes, but that's just a story I made up. Before she could finish speaking, Lei immediately interrupted her, the story you made up happened to happen in reality, right? Zhuangjie's face was ugly, yes. You killed Fei Li's brother in the story, but in reality Fei Li's brother just happened to be dead, right? Right. You used catfish to dispose of the carcass in the story, and in reality people found the remains of the carcass in the stomach of the catfish, right? Right. You made Fei Li's brother drink coffee in the story, and in reality the victim's autopsy found caffeine, right? Yes, but Lei asked, Miss Zhuangjie, even though your stories are completely consistent with what happened in reality, you still insist that you are just making up stories, right? I really don't know. This story suddenly appeared in my mind, and I told it naturally, Zhuangjie said unwillingly, it's really just a story. Then do you remember who you heard the story from? Do not remember. Has anyone else heard this story? Zhuangjie was depressed and lost, I don't know. Lei faced the judge and said, Your Honor, I have no problem. After speaking, he walked back to his seat. Zhuangjie was anxious, her eyes were flushed, I'm not lying, it's really a story I heard from others. The judge reminded her, Defendant, you don't need to answer when there are no questions. Zhuangjie pursed her lips aggrievedly. Mu Zi stood up and asked, Miss Zhuangjie, can you row a boat? Or a small boat with an electric motor? Zhuangjie shook his head, I won't. Then after you dispose of the corpse, how do you sail back to the shore? Mu Zi asked. Zhuangjie said, I was just telling a story, I didn't think about it. Thank you. Mu Zi sat down, remembered something, and asked again, are you afraid of blood? I have a slight obsession with cleanliness, and I'm afraid of bloody things. Then it must be difficult for you to dismember the body. Thank you, I have no problem. Mu Zi sat down. People in the spectators look different. The situation is delicate and faintly flat. Chu Mingjun, who was beside Mu Zi, whispered to her, Ding Hao Wei is here, sit in the last row, the one in the plaid shirt. Mu Zi turned her head slightly and glanced at it out of the corner of her eye. Chu Mingjun said in a low voice, the prosecution regards him as their whole card and should arrange to appear in court last, but he came so early, which shows that he is very concerned about the progress of the case. Mu Zi glanced at him appreciatively, that's right, Xiaoming, you've become more reliable after getting married. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 1009. Chu Mingjun was very happy. After being happy for a while, I felt something was wrong, and couldn't help asking, is it unreliable when I'm not married? At this time, the prosecution asked the second witness to testify in court, interrupting the conversation between the two. The second witness is a middle-aged lady. The prosecutor introduced her as an experienced psychologist who treated Zhuangjie several years ago and diagnosed Zhuangjie with sleep disorders and somnambulism. Objection. Muzi stood up. The witness statement has nothing to do with this case. The judge looks at the prosecutor. Qinlei hurriedly said, Your Honor, the defendant Zhuang Jia treated the facts of the crime as a false story. I think her psychological state is closely related to this case, and the psychologist can just prove this point. The objection is void, said the judge. Muzi frowned and sat down again. Chu Mingjun couldn't help but whispered, Is this prosecutor stupid? If it is deduced that Zhuang Jia committed murder while insane, wouldn't it be equivalent to acquittal? Mental patients do not commit murder because they are not legally complete persons, that is, they lose their capacity for civil conduct. Muzi's expression darkened. If he succeeds in deducing it, Zhuang Jia will indeed be released without charge, but how can we accuse Ding Haowei? In court, Qinlei was questioning the psychiatrist. Do you know the person sitting in the dock? No. Can you tell me how you met? About 11 years ago, her mother brought her to my clinic. I diagnosed her with sleepwalking and treated her for about a month. Can you explain the term sleepwalking? Yes, sleepwalking is a strange phenomenon in which you get out of bed and move around on your own during sleep, and then go back to bed to continue sleeping. Neurologically, it is a sleep disorder. The symptoms are generally walking around the residence in a half-awake state, but some patients will leave residence, or make some dangerous moves. Dangerous move. Qinlei slowed down and pointed at Zhuang Jia. Is it possible to kill someone without knowing it? The psychologist nodded. This is entirely possible. Some sleepwalking patients will be accompanied by violent behavior. After waking up, the patients don't know anything about sleepwalking. Qinlei got the answer he wanted. The corners of his mouth slightly curled up, and he looked at the judge. I'm done asking. It was Muse's turn to cross-examine. You just said that you treated my client for a month. How many times? Muzi asked. The witness replied, once a week, about 4 or 5 times. How long each time? 1 hour. After your treatment, has my client's sleep disorder improved? The psychiatrist hesitated for a while, then nodded, yes. Muzi continued, after a month of treatment, she returned to normal, so the treatment is over, right? Yes. As far as you know, during my client's treatment, did she engage in any violent behavior while sleepwalking? No. The psychiatrist glanced at Zhuang Jia uncomfortably. Did she hurt anyone while sleepwalking? No. The psychiatrist tried to explain, she was only 9 years old. Yes, she was only 9 years old at the time. She had just suffered a series of accidents such as her parents' divorce and her father's remarriage. She was traumatized psychologically and emotionally, and she suffered from sleep disorders. Muzi looked at the jury, but this is not the same as what's the deal with this case? A psychiatrist who only met my client 5 times and spent no more than 5 hours together accused my client of murder on the grounds of a psychological diagnosis 11 years ago. 11 years ago, my client did not have any violent behavior during sleepwalking. After being cured, his condition became so serious that he killed and dismembered his body without knowing it. Think about it, everyone, is it ridiculous? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life. Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 1010. After Muzi finished asking, she sat down expressionlessly. Qinlei's heart was beating wildly, and a sound effect similar to an arcade game appeared in his mind, KO. He carefully observed the expressions of the jury members, and felt that the balance was tilting slightly, and what he had to do now was to try to add weight to himself. Be steady, if you can go on TV, just watch it this time. Qinlei encouraged himself in his heart. Your Honor, please allow our witnesses to testify in court. Muzi stood up and said, flipping through the documents in her hand, going through the process in an orderly manner. From Qin Lei's angle, he could just see her side face. Her ruddy cheeks were childish, but her expression was extremely calm and steady. Her aura was as stable as Mount Tai. I couldn't help but curse in my heart, I'm really not human. At this time, a very elegantly dressed man sat on the witness stand, with a well-groomed beard and handsome eyebrows, like a male model in a fashion blockbuster, with the charm of a mature man. Please introduce yourself to the jury, Muzi said. My surname is Pei. I am currently a designer and work for a British fashion magazine. What is the relationship between Mr. Pei and my client? We used to be lovers. The man looked at Zhuangjia with a touch of concern in his eyes. We dated for about half a year, and it was considered a peaceful breakup. Later, I went abroad. Muzi asked, my client was accused of murder by the prosecution. How do you feel about this? I've read the news reports. It's impossible. The man smiled. Jia is very timid, and she was dating me at the time, so it's impossible for her to like that male model named Philip. Why are you so sure? Muzi asked. Jia has some Electra complex, which may be related to the divorce of her parents. She likes mature men. I saw the photos on the news. The looks of the two victims. The man shrugged. Although it may be rude to say so, however, they really aren't the type Jia would like. I remember that when Zhuangjia was telling the story, she described Fei Li's brother. Muzi picked up the written statement on the table and read it word by word. Fei Li's brother is more handsome, taller, and stronger than Fei Li. Mature. Chu Mingjun picked up a stack of photos and distributed them to the members of the jury. The man in the photo is Philip's older brother, Ma Kaiming. He is indeed handsome, but it has nothing to do with being tall and mature. Instead, he is thin and white, with a delicate feeling of a beautiful boy. All the members of the jury frowned, with doubts in their eyes. Muzi smiled. Everyone, this is the tall and mature brother of Fei Li that my client said. I believe everyone should have the answer in their hearts. Muzi sat down. Qin Lei quickly stood up. Mr. Pei, may I ask why you came back from abroad to testify? Since you have broken up, you should have no contact. Zhuangjia's mother called me. Do you have any business relationship with Ms. Shen at work? Is there any cooperation? Qin Lei asked again. The man frowned slightly. Yes, Ms. Shen is one of our company's customers. So can I understand it this way? Qin Lei asked. If you testify against Zhuangjia in court, your company will lose a very important client. Objection, Muzi said coldly. The other party is questioning the integrity of our witness. Your Honor, there is an obvious interest between the witnesses and the accused, and I think the jurors have a right to know that. The judge pondered for a while, and said after a while, the objection is invalid. Muzi's face darkened. Qin Lei continued to ask, witness, please answer. Once you testify against the defendant, will your company lose Ms. Shen as a client? The man hesitated, and replied, there is a possibility. Qin Lei immediately breathed a sigh of relief after pulling back around. Thank you, I have no problem. Blessed to have each other in this life. Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 1011. After a morning of verbal confrontation, the judge announced an adjournment, and the trial continued in the afternoon. Muzi, Chu Mingjun, Zhang Xi, and Zhang Xinyuan found a restaurant near the court, had lunch together, and took a short rest. The prosecution has almost finished presenting evidence, right? Chu Mingjun said. It seems that there is only one witness left. Well, Ding Haowei is the only one left. Zhang Xi looked at Muzi. Are you sure about cross-examination? Muzi slowly ate a bowl of steamed eggs with shrimps, and raised her eyes when she heard this, half and half. Zhang Xinyuan's heart tightened when he heard this, and he worried, will Zhuangjia be sentenced? Do we still have a chance to appeal? Relax. Zhang Ci patted her on the shoulder lightly. The half of what she said was the half of sending Ding Haowei to prison. Zhuang Jia will definitely be fine. Zhang Xinyuan breathed a sigh of relief, but she still felt nervous. It was because the trial in the morning did not feel optimistic to her. Although Mu Ziyi occasionally had the upper hand, it didn't seem that she had an obvious advantage. Mu Ziyi ate half a bowl of steamed eggs with shrimps, picked out all the shrimps in the egg soup and ate them, and asked, "Is there no news about Yu Yang?" "No." Zhang Ci looked down at the phone. "I can't get through the phone, and I don't know if I can make it back today." Mu Ziyi continued to eat lunch in silence, without asking any more questions. In the old gray and white building, Yu Yang stood at the door of a resident and said sincerely, "I'm sorry to disturb you again and again, but it is related to the truth of the case. Please think again. Did your son have close contacts with anyone before the accident, or any exception?" The middle-aged woman looked puzzled. "Prosecutor Yu, we really don't know, we've already told you everything we can say." Before the words fell, the middle-aged man in the room roared, "Let him get out! Get out!" The other party ran to the door angrily with a pot in his hand, and threw it on Yu Yang's head and face. The woman screamed. Rao Yu Yang was quick to react, and he was doused half of his body with shabu-shabu. The instigator threw the pot on the ground hard, made a loud bang, and left angrily. "Prosecutor, prosecutor! Are you okay?" The woman turned around in a hurry, and took paper from the room to wipe for Yu Yang, but even if she wiped off the water stains, she still couldn't get rid of the rotten smell of shabu-shabu. "Don't blame him." The woman was afraid that the prosecutor would get angry, and explained pitifully, "We only have these two sons, and we haven't heard from them for these years. I thought that the children would make a lot of money in big cities outside, who would have known?" Yu Yang took a paper to wipe the water stains on his cheeks. His expression was still indifferent. The woman sighed, "Don't come here again. We really don't know anything. If we insist on someone, that is, once Kai Ziyi went home to recuperate, a male colleague went to the hospital to see him. Healing." Yu Yang froze. The woman turned her face away, embarrassed and sad. "Oh. I don't know how did I get that disease?" The afternoon trial began, and Mu Ziyi and Chu Mingjun returned to the defense bench. As they expected, the prosecution's evidence work has come to an end, and the last witness to appear in court is Ding Haowei, whom they have been waiting for a long time. Zhang Ci sat in the auditorium with a smile on her face, and said in a low voice, "Someone is about to officially start work." "Huh?" Zhang Xinyuan was puzzled. "Didn't it count just now?" "Just now," Zhang Ci smiled, "it was only a warm-up just now, and now she is going to fire at full power." Zhang Xinyuan asked in a daze, "Is this a strategy? Let's wait until the last moment." "No." Zhang Ci looked at Mu Ziyi on the defense bench and smiled, "I'm just worried that the other party will be too scared to appear in court, so I have to take it easy at first. Just watch, the fox is about to show its tail."